Calderon, Boxing Talk. Much love, man, from me, be the chosen one, baby. From New York, Bushwick, baby. You already.
What's up, y'all? It's your boy, Jay Calderon of Fight Hook News and Stand Clear Entertainment, and we're about to get into this week's Boxing Talk. It is official. Former two-time heavyweight champion Iron Mike Tyson is returning back to the ring at the age of 54 years old. He is the youngest heavyweight champion in the history of boxing. At the age of 20 years old, he captured the WBC heavyweight crown. And now, after 15 years, he is returning back to the ring in an 8-round exhibition matchup against former 4-division world champion and pound for pound one of the greatest fighters of all time, Roy Jones Jr. This is a fight matchup that I had called for and that I wanted since Mike Tyson said that he was thinking about making a comeback, and we started to see the training videos of Mike Tyson at 54 working out in the gym, looking good, with those flash combinations. But, people were saying that he's going to fight Evander Holyfield, Riddick Bowe. You had guys like James Toney calling him out. A lot of old-timers wanting to come out of retirement to face Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson has been always one of the biggest attractions in boxing history, and this man commands an audience. Now, a lot of people, especially Shannon Briggs, was saying that he was going to fight Mike Tyson, and that was in negotiation because Shannon Briggs was tied into Bare Knuckle Boxing organization, which made a $20 million offer to Mike Tyson to make a bare knuckle matchup against Shannon Briggs. And Mike Tyson just recently turned that offer down and decided not to take the $20 million offer. Now, he is going to be entering a boxing ring without headgear in an exhibition match that's going to be about 8 rounds. Now, Roy Jones has signed on the dotted line to make this official, and Mike Tyson as well. So this is definitely happening. It's going to be on pay-per-view. I don't know the location just yet, but it's going to be on September 12th, and that's just around the corner. That's about 2 months short of preparation for these two guys to get into great shape and get into the ring to face one another. And I know a lot of fans are going to be tuning in to watch this fight because it is two of boxing's biggest stars in the past 30 years that are going to come to face one another. And I predicted this fight happening. This is the fight that I wanted to see because I knew the magnitude of this fight because both guys have such star power. Mike Tyson was a ferocious beast in the 1980s and became heavyweight champion of the world. And then once again, after he came out of prison, he became heavyweight champion for a second time. He is the youngest man ever to win the heavyweight crown at the age of 20. And this man had speed, power, and a ferociousness that brought fear into the heavyweight division. And Roy Jones Jr., since the 1990s into the early 2000s, the best fighter in the world. In my lifetime, I've never seen a fighter like Roy Jones. Many people say that Sugar Ray Robinson was pound for pound the best fighter of all time. And to me, Roy Jones Jr. is second best pound for pound fighter of all time. One of the greatest to ever do it. He won the middleweight crown at 160 pounds and then captured the super middleweight title and the light heavyweight title 3 times before moving up to the heavyweight division to capture the heavyweight crown. Only the second man in boxing history in over 100 years to capture the middleweight crown and the heavyweight crown. And that was an extraordinary thing for Roy Jones Jr. to do. Now, he did pick one of the lesser heavyweight champions at the time in John Ruiz, but nevertheless, this was a man that weighed more than 30 plus pounds against Roy Jones, who came under the 200-pound limit. I believe he was weighing about 193 when he captured the heavyweight crown. Now, Roy Jones hasn't fought in perhaps the last 2 or 3 years, and the last time he fought, he came in at 199 pounds, just 1 pound under 200 pounds as a cruiserweight. Now, Roy Jones is 51 years old, and he has been more active in the gym than Mike Tyson, a lot longer. He's been training fighters. He's been staying in great shape. He still has quickness. He still has good footwork. And Roy Jones has one of the best ring IQs in boxing history. He is a great master in that ring when it comes to boxing. You know, he might not have the punching power to hurt Mike Tyson. You know, he's been knocked out before, you know, by lesser punches. But Roy Jones is a guy that can move in that ring better than Mike Tyson can move right now. You know, Tyson did have great footwork in his prime, but Mike Tyson hasn't had a fight in 15 years. And I want that to sink in to a lot of people, because people see Mike Tyson in these videos looking very flashy on the boxing pads and working the heavy bag and letting off those quick shots. But those are like 30 seconds of action. You know, Mike Tyson fighting in an 8-round fight, if he can't knock out Roy Jones within the first 2 rounds, even the first 3 rounds, Mike Tyson is going to be in trouble in this fight. I'm telling you guys, Mike Tyson, you know, is a guy that's always been the killer in the first 2 or 3 rounds. In his prime, if you was able to take him into deep waters, he will have a difficult time against you. Now, Roy Jones and Mike Tyson are about the same size as far as height, you know, and Mike Tyson does have those quick combinations. If he's able to land one of those big, quick power shots on Roy Jones, he's going to be able to hurt Roy Jones. But I believe Roy Jones is smart enough to avoid a lot of those shots. He's also quick enough to get in and out and land his own combinations and be able to score punches on Mike Tyson. This is a very interesting fight, and one that a lot of boxing fans will pay to see this fight on pay-per-view, because they have a lot of emotional attachment to both of these fighters. A lot of people love Mike Tyson, you know, because what he brought to the sport and the craziness that he's always done inside that ring with a lot of his antics. But a lot of people also have an emotional attachment to Roy Jones. They love Roy Jones. And Roy Jones, you know, has been fighting a lot longer than he should have. And Roy Jones, you know, still was beating a lot of young guys, or guys that are journeymen, that are way past their prime. You know, these guys were getting beat by a Roy Jones that was about 48 years old at the time he last fought. And Roy Jones, you know, still had some good movement and still put on a good, decent performance against that caliber type of fighter. But he's not going up against a truly prime Mike Tyson. And this image of Mike Tyson, people see him and say, wow, you know, Mike Tyson still got it. He doesn't got it until he gets into that ring and truly proves that he still has it. Mike Tyson looks good on video for 30 seconds, but in an 8-round fight against a guy that's been in the gym a lot longer, that has fought about 2 or 3 years compared to 15 years ago when Mike Tyson last stepped into the ring, you know, an in-shape Mike Tyson versus an in-shape Roy Jones is going to be an intriguing matchup, and one that I'm definitely going to tune in to watch, and I can't wait. Like I said, I've been calling for this fight ever since Mike Tyson came back on the scene, you know, showing these videos that he was talking about going to be making a comeback, that he's back in the boxing scene. Well, this fight right here is a fight that I'm very happy that was made. And I told a lot of people, this is the fight that should be made. And I can't wait. It's an exhibition match, not a real fight, but without headgear, it's going to be pretty interesting to see these guys. You know, you have Floyd Mayweather that's talking about having an exhibition match again, perhaps by the ending of the year, perhaps with another Japanese fighter or MMA fighter in a boxing match, which is basically an uneven matchup, because none of these guys could beat Floyd Mayweather, who's in his 40s already, and these guys are not real professional boxers. Here you have an interesting, you know, matchup against men that are in their 50s, and they're truly icons of the sport of boxing, entering the ring, that are both with great speed and also great footwork. And it's going to be very interesting to see these two guys get it on, more than a Floyd Mayweather matchup. And I believe that a lot of people are going to tune into this fight, especially now post-pandemic, where boxing fans have been waiting for a very big matchup. This is not Terrence Crawford versus Errol Spence, the fight that we want to see. This is not Tyson Fury versus Anthony Joshua. But this is two icons that are much bigger than all these guys. And these guys are going to produce an audience that are going to tune in just to watch their favorite fighter. Now, I'm a Brooklyn guy, and I love Brooklyn to the day I die. And Mike Tyson, even though he came from Brownsville, I was never a big Mike Tyson fan. I was definitely a Riddick Bowe fan and 100% an Evander Holyfield fan. And Larry Holmes is my favorite heavyweight champion of all time. And when Mike Tyson beat Larry Holmes the way he did, a washed up Larry Holmes, past his prime, 2 years out of retirement, then, I wasn't a fan of Mike Tyson, what he did to my idol back then. So, Roy Jones, I have definitely been a big fan of Roy Jones. He was the best fighter that I've ever saw in the past 10 years. He is a better pound-for-pound fighter than any of the pound-for-pound fighters that I have ever saw. Better than Oscar De La Hoya, better than my other favorite fighter, Pernell Whitaker, better than Floyd Mayweather Jr. himself. Roy Jones, in those 10 years, was untouchable and was a spectacular specimen to see in that ring. Nobody comes close to a prime Roy Jones in that 10-year span. Nobody. And I say that Roy Jones Jr. will defeat Mike Tyson when they meet in that square circle. And I can't wait. And that's my prediction. I like to thank everyone for tuning in to this YouTube channel right here, J. Calderon Boxing Talk. Please hit that red subscribe button, hit that bell icon, put your email information in so you get all my notifications once I drop a new video. Also, hit that like button, that share button, and drop a comment. Follow me on all social media platforms, on Twitter, on Instagram, and join the Facebook boxing group page, all under the same name, J. Calderon Boxing Talk. I'm J. Calderon for Fight Hook News and Stan Clear Entertainment. Thanks for your support. Keep watching, and please subscribe.